I do not want to blow up the Celtics.
Okay.
The Celtics finally
You
are
heard
the
Shams?
right group. I heard Shams.
Apparently they want to.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean they're right. And it doesn't mean they should.
No.
And
I
it doesn't
agree with
mean
that.
we have to sit back and take it, Jones. We don't have to do that. Let me be the first to say they should not blow up the Celtics.
Okay.
They should keep this down. Brad Stevens got the right mix. After all these years, Danny Ainge deserves credit for getting Tatum and Brown, but they got the right group finally. They've been tinkering with it for so long, and they got the right group, and now they're like, well, it's too expensive. It's like, well, that's not great. I mean, if that's what you want to do as the owner, then like it is your right to do it, but fans are going to immediately hate you, and that's also their right to do that too.
So there's a lot of good layers to this.
Yeah.
And that was Shams Charnia yesterday on the Pat McAfee show discussing changes are coming to the Celtics this offseason. He even qualifies it by saying, well, they're locked in on defending their title right now.
Oh, yeah, they're not going to trade anybody tonight?
Well, they can't.
Thank
It's
you.
like, yeah,
right. No kidding.
Brad Stevens can't do anything about the team right now, so he would be on to the next thing if that's the marching orders from the new boss, who, oh, by the way, the sale's officially, not officially, but reportedly about to go final. There were some questions about that, which I never questioned, like Pags trying to wait
like,
in the
hey,
wings.
this falls apart
In the shadows. I'm still over here.
Nope.
I know I know you got a new man, but I'm still right here.
As we all sit together front row during these games.
With my boombox. Yeah, no, yeah, he is.
I know.
Wick here in the middle.
Steve.
Pags to one side.
And Wild Bill Chisholm.
Chisholm to the other.
Yeah.
And they refuse to show him on the Jumbotron at the Garden, which
It's
I still
bizarre.
find odd. But okay,
Yep.
So there are changes coming as soon as this offseason. The whole league knows about it. Wick tried to warn us about this. We're going to play some of Wick coming up from last month on the Greg Hill Show. What's he talking about? What are the changes?
Well, they're trying to shed salary. They're trying to get under the second apron because not only are you paying the money to all the players, but then if you're over a certain number, then you have to pay even more on top of it. So, just for these aren't exact numbers, but basically your $300 million payroll turns into like $500 million or whatever. Like that ends up being like the real dollars that you have to spend. So they're going to try to get under that, which they shouldn't, because they're going to come up with all these other different reasons for why they have to do it, for competitive balance and all these different penalties that they put on you. It's like, no, it's just still the money. Like, this is a salary cap league more so than it is, baseball, which is not a salary cap league, but way less so than, say, the NHL. Right? The NHL, like, here's a hard cap, here's how much you can spend, that's it. Whereas in basketball, it's, all right, well, it's your own guy. This guy qualifies for the Supermax. So does this guy. Oh, you're re-signing this guy. There's all these things that if you're willing to spend the actual dollars, you could keep this team together. All their players of consequence are under contract for next year. Meaning there's no rule that says you need to move on from somebody from your top 8 players.
Bingo.
They're going to do it only because they want to save money.
So I agree with you to a point. If they win and they've won back-to-back titles and they're sitting on top of the basketball universe with 2 championships and you can go for a third, they better not blow anything up. But if they come up short, like
there's more.
I don't think they're losing to the Knicks, Keefe.
Yeah.
I don't think they're losing to the Cavs, but they get tripped up by OKC, Golden State, Minnesota, somebody out west. That does give them carte blanche to make changes and say, well, we're getting older, changes are happening. Fans still won't like it, but I agree with you 100%. If they've won back-to-back titles, you spend whatever it takes to three-peat. You spend whatever it takes to go for another championship. If you don't, then I see their viewpoint a little bit more. It's hard to repeat in the NBA.
Yeah.
The Nuggets didn't repeat. The Warriors' latest incarnation didn't repeat. The Bucks didn't repeat. And so, you can say this team won and they should keep it together, but once you lose, I don't know, I would see their side of the street much more. But sitting here forecasting it that they could win back-to-back and potentially 3 in a row, they better not blow anything up if those are the stakes.
Oh, if you win 2 in a row and then you move on from a big player or even 2 big players, you'd say, like, oh, who stopped the Celtics? It wasn't the Knicks. It wasn't the Thunder. It was Bill Chisholm. Right? Like, that's the only thing. Like the old, Michael Jordan, Dean Smith thing.
Yeah.
Like, we could keep him under 20. No, Dean Smith can.
Not a good way.
No, that would be a terrible start.
Not a good way for private equity's Bill Chisholm to come in.
Hypothetical that maybe could go their way. What if a player is hurt and is out and they win without a certain player? Could they then spin it? Now, again, it would be spin. I wouldn't advocate for this.
So you're talking about Holiday
or
who's already
Porzingis
hurt, or
or something like
Porzingis
that,
who's
and they-
a play away from getting hurt.
And they're like, hey, we're moving on from him. And they'll spin it as though, well, this creates more flexibility for mid-levels and draft picks and blah, 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 blah. But it's really just about money. but they won it without a certain guy, maybe that would be an easier spin. But I'm with you. If they have everybody healthy and they win a hard-fought series against whoever, and they're back-to-back champs, and then they move on from somebody, it's only about money, and it'd be a horrible, horrible basketball decision.
They can try to spin it. If somebody's hurt and they win without him, they can try to. I wouldn't stand for it.
I'd still keep the guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't stand for it. Good point by Dark and Stormy Nights in the Twitch chat. If you thought Dallas fans were mad at Nico, Boston fans would riot.
Oh, my God. Good
New
point.
ownership?
Yeah. First thing they do is get rid of, 2 players.
Pags might storm the Garden with a bunch of Celtics fans.
Oh, Pags would smell like roses.
So,
who knows? He might have done the same thing, but we don't know.
So who do you view as you just mentioned 2 names, Porzingis, Holiday.
Those 2.
We think in this scenario, Shams isn't talking about, well, obviously he's not talking about Tatum. He's not talking about Jaylen, right?
I don't think so.
As the guy who's traded Jaylen 1,000 times.
No, you know what's going to happen?
Including from the second he was drafted,
right.
as highlighted.
Before he was drafted.
In
just
the final episode.
The slot. We were ready to trade that pick.
Seriously, good point.
Yeah.
As was highlighted in the final episode of Celtics City, I was right there booing him the second he got drafted, and I was trading him even before he got drafted.
We were in the Garden that night.
We were.
With Bill Simmons' dad.
With angry
He was
Wick.
there.
With Angry Wick, who, by the way, said...
Eating buffalo wings.
Wick, by the way, I didn't remember he said it this way. Wick.
Sick brag.
Yeah, we were there.
We were there.
That's right, Nick.
In your face.
We were there.
Yeah, that's just history.
That's it.
Them's are facts.
They put us in the stands, remember?
Very, very
It was
strange.
a weird setup.
Again.
Sick brag, bro.
In a related
That's
story.
actually not a brag. That was these 2 guys are here. All right, put them up there.
In a related story, Wick never did another draft show with the night show.
He was on with us though, right?
He was on that night.
Yeah.
Not again.
No.
But his comment then was so fraudulent. He's like, yeah, we've been trying to move the pick all day, but Jalen's our guy.
And we love our guy.
Yeah, and it's like
he's our guy. So basically, yeah, those are good.
Wait a minute,
crazy.
he's your guy. Why were you trying to move the pick all day? That's like Trevion Henderson right now. Not to go down that rabbit hole.
I want Trevion Henderson.
We're not. No, they tried to trade the pick all day, but Trevion Henderson's our guy. Totally.
I get it.
Okay, so I don't think it's Jaylen. It's not Tatum. So
Pritchard doesn't make enough money, so he's safe.
Neither is Hauser.
So here's what it would be.
Nobody wants Horford. So does
Horford retire and make it easy for him?
We're talking Porzingis, Holiday, maybe White. That's who we're talking about, right?
Yeah, and I would say, Holiday's age and now his current injury status, I would say he's sort of at the top of the list, which would be a huge mistake. And then Porzingis, which is another guy that really sets you apart. And isn't that crazy that we have seen a Tatum, Brown, Horford team for many years? The time they win it, they have Holiday and Porzingis. And I would say more so Holiday just because Porzingis was in and out in the playoffs last year. But those were the 2 missing pieces that Brad Stevens added to this team, and they won a title. And this conversation obviously changes quite a bit over the next month and a half. If we're talking about 2 titles in a row, and then you break it up, that's insane. And then also, if you end up losing somehow, but if it's like a 7-game series and you lose to the Thunder in the NBA Finals, I still don't think it's going to be an easy conversation to have with the fans. Be like, yeah, we're getting rid of this guy, and we're somehow better for it.
You lose Game 7 to OKC, and then they're like, hey, guys,
let's run it back.
We can't keep this team together. We got to blow it up.
It's like, why?
Maybe they'd be right, but it wouldn't go well with the fans. I'm with you on that. 617-779-7937. Shams says changes are coming to the Celtics. Not only that, but the whole league assumes changes are coming to the Celtics this offseason. Who is he talking about? How would you feel about it? Especially if the Celtics are sitting here as back-to-back champions. Again, 617-779-7937. That's how you interact on the phone and text line. You can do the same on Twitter and Instagram at Jones and Keefe. Watch along and chat, twitch.tv/Boston WEEI. Always a healthy chat going on Twitch. And you can watch on YouTube. Just subscribe to WEEI. Wick tried to warn us about this months ago.
He did, yep.
On this radio station with Greg Hill back in March. Here's what Wick had to say about long-term changes to the organization.
It's not the luxury tax bill. It's the basketball penalties. Okay, the new CBA was designed by the league to stop teams from going crazy. And they decided that it's not just good enough to go after the wallets, because then the fans are like, hey, find somebody who can afford to spend whatever, $500 million a year or whatever it is. The basketball penalties mean that it's even more of a premium now to have your basketball general manager, your basketball president, be brilliant and lucky, because you've got to navigate, because you can't stay in the second apron. Nobody will. I predict for the next, 40 years of the CBA, no one's going to stay in the second apron more than 2 years. So we have Brad Stevens, the reigning executive of the year, and thank God we do. He's the one that really brought us his championship with his brilliant moves. I mean, many other people, but Brad is forefront, and he's looking at this, and he's going to extend our window and make it work. I believe he will, and we'll find out in June and July what he decides to do.
Thank God for Brad Stevens.
Yeah, that's pretty ominous. That means they're going to have to move on from players that Brad just acquired to win a title.
And my reaction at the time when we heard this, well, number one, all the stuff about the basketball penalties.
That's fake.
You already highlighted why that's so fake. There's no rule or penalty that says the Celtics have to change their roster.
They can bring everybody back. It's just about money. These billionaires want to make as much money as possible, and they don't want to pay more than they need to.
Well,
because you want me to tell you what the penalties are?
Yeah.
Tell me if this is really restricted. When you already have a team that's won a title,
maybe back-to-back titles,
and they're all under contract, and what, out of the 8 best guys, 6 are in their prime? Right, it's really Holiday and Horford are kind of managing. Everybody else is in their prime, and they are a proven commodity. All right, if you're on the second apron, it says here it triggers several penalties, including losing access to the taxpayer mid-level exception.
Okay, so
you can't get Xavier Tillman.
Can't add a mid-level player.
Yeah, you can't add Tillman at the deadline.
You don't need a mid-level player.
You're unable to use trade exceptions from previous years.
Okay.
I'm not trying to trade anybody.
Right. Unless you want to break things up, you don't need these trade exceptions.
Restrictions on trading first-round draft picks 7 years in the future.
Okay.
So you can't trade the 2032 first-round pick.
Okay, well that's...
You better trade Porzingis then.
They're hamstrung now.
Additionally, if a team remains in the second apron for 3 of 5 years, so 3 times in a 5-year stretch, their first-round pick is moved to the end of the first round.
Oh, no.
Which it already will be because we assume they're competing for titles.
They're scheduled to pick, 28th right now.
Dude, there's nothing in there that even gives me, pause. There's nothing in there that you even say, that actually could come back to bite you.
Well, it doesn't give me or you pause. It might give the guy plunking down $6 billion pause.
No, it doesn't. That doesn't.
No,
that still doesn't.
No, I'm sorry.
Paying $500 million for your team or paying $300 million for your team. That is the thing.
The basketball penalties don't. The luxury tax is obviously what we're talking about. So Wick can try to talk his way out of it. That's BS. But the other part that jumped out to me is Wick put a timetable on it. It's either this offseason or next. Wick told you no one's staying in the luxury tax more than 2 years in a row. Well, here's number 1. This next offseason is number 2. They may not even stay the second year, but Wick told you it's not going beyond next year. And that's what he said back in March. So I felt like that was ominous at the time. Do you think, Keefe, this report by Shams, I've already seen people on the text line and Twitch chat. I'll read from the text line here, 617-779-7937. Guys, it's curious that the Shams report comes out now to create a distraction for the Celtics, blah, blah, blah. Like other teams trying to stir the pot, distract the Celtics, sow seeds of discontent, or whatever. Whether or not you believe that conspiracy theory, do you think it has the potential to create issues within the Celtics? I don't want to go. This guy might go. Like, if teams in the league know that breakups, changes could be happening, do you think that could infect the locker room in some ways while trying to defend a championship?
I really don't think so. It might even go the other way, where they're like, hey, this might be our last run. Like, maybe it's even more incentive to go out and win it, to be honest, a little bit. Because it's the NBA. I feel like guys change teams all the time.
So that's fine. It might. I'm not telling you it won't. But if you're willing to acknowledge that they could use it as a rallying point,
they could.
We need to acknowledge it could go the other way. And so it would in some ways get into the locker room. You might view it as a rallying point. You might be right. But I just think contract stuff like this, you hear fans all the time. They'll call up, oh, what do you think of guys in the middle of a game, a playoff game, thinking about his contract? Yeah, sometimes. Robert Parrish told us in Celtic City he didn't stick up for Larry Bird.
Oh, it's definitely
in a brawl because of a contract. So, yeah, that's a Hall of Fame player who in the middle of the playoffs said, I'm not sticking up for my guy.
But like a guy like Jaylen Brown, for example, like we were joking about, was traded every year for, every deadline, every offseason. We assumed he was going to be traded or people were trying to work up trades, and he stayed here and had to play through it. So I feel like it's just the nature of the NBA. There's always some sort of uncertainty. Even if you're under contract, you could be gone. Guys get traded all the time. Celtic City is a good reminder of that. Antoine Walker, Kendrick Perkins, Marcus Smart, they're all blown away when they got traded. They were not prepared for being traded at all. And right now, Al Horford's a free agent at the end of the year. Porzingis is a free agent after the following year. So I wonder if maybe like Bill Chisholm and those guys look back on it and say, all right, let's see what Horford does. Would he walk away after back-to-back titles, just retire? Can we keep Porzingis for one more year and then not re-up him and just sort of see what happens? And then you don't look like you're the bad guy as much, and some of this stuff sort of solves itself. because you do have Tatum and Brown locked up for the long term. You have two Supermax guys locked up forever. Those are the two that you think you'd want to keep the most. But yeah, I think there's always questions, when you look at a team like this and the payroll that they have.
So if you think it could be a rallying cry, then fine. It's a last dance, last rally, last resort sort of thing. Well, fine. Then that's what you think. But you are acknowledging, and I don't mean you, Keefe. I would mean a Celtics fan who says, oh, yeah, I like that. I want to latch onto that. You are acknowledging that the external reporting and or just the rumors throughout the league, and there are rumors throughout the league, and they've been going on for a while. Wick was on the station a few months ago. We've been talking about stuff like this since Bill Chisholm bought the team. We're like, all right, well, what does that mean for changes? Will he want to fit the luxury bill? Like, I don't think any of it's out of left field, but it's a new report from one of the most trusted insiders, the most trusted insider in the sport, now with Woj out of it. So will it impact the Celtics, good or bad, in the playoff run? And if you think they can use it as a rallying cry, you're acknowledging it's going to impact them, which means it could go the other way.